All right, doing a little Sunday night chat. Haven't done this in a while. Thought this would be a good time. I know everybody's in mourning here with the Red Sox having a little bit of a tough slide. So let's chat that up here on this Sunday night. Put the comments in below. Whatever platform you're watching on. So many will say that I'm the eternal optimist and always positive, and that's true, and I still am. Part of it's because I've been in baseball for 25 years and I've seen a lot of things. I never get to up here, never get down here. Subscribe to a great quote philosophy from a great pitching coach, Bob Kipper, that just one day he said to me, "You learn a lot about people and situations through adversity. Anybody can be on top of the world when things are going great. How do people and how do situations, how do groups act when things are going down?" And yeah, this is a down moment for the Red Sox, but I personally think that this season the Red Sox have surprised a lot of people. And you want to say they've overachieved? Yeah, I think to some degree. I don't love that word for some reason because they're major league players. Maybe we had players that didn't have great pasts that were performing well early and things have caught up to them. It happens. Major League Baseball is, and no one wants to hear this, it is a very, very tough game. The separator between minor league levels to me is huge. I think the separator, now that I've spent my first full year in AAA with the Woo Sox, if people don't know that, I've uh, I've had even more respect for AAA than I think I had before. I worked in AA for so long where I felt you see guys that are pretty good in AA and you think, well, they can play in the big leagues, but man, some of those guys come up to AAA and just don't succeed. It's just it's tough once you get to these. I think three levels: then the AA, AAA to the big leagues. And I don't love a lot of the negative stuff. I see a lot of things, and I do think things are fabricated by many. Um, I don't think Anthony Rizzo was the reason the Red Sox are not playing well. I could be wrong. Uh, I do want to remind people that don't love all the trade stuff and are mad at the Red Sox. You do realize, and I haven't seen anyone comment on this, you do realize that in many trades that happened during the deadline, I'm pretty sure Tristan Casas, and I had a few scats tell me that they felt Casas was probably in any deal that the Red Sox were going to make. Red Sox are winning, they're in first place. Teams trade with different organizations. A lot of shortstops in the minor leagues were traded. The Red Sox really didn't have that kind of situation. Jeter Downs has been struggling. Would he have been a guy they could have spun? I don't know. Would you trade Nick York? No, first round pick. So you have to understand that I know people are mad about not going a little bit more in on the trade deadline, but you have to remember that I'm pretty sure that Casas would have been involved. I'm not trading Tristan Casas for Anthony Rizzo. That's crazy to me. And let's just wait and see what happens with Kyle Schwarber. All right. So listen, it's not great. The Red Sox have not really had a stretch like this year. Today was a bad loss. We know that. Like Barnes made a really bad pitch. The key knows that. Um, that Springer home run, previous pitch, he was swinging out of his shoes and missed it, threw him the same pitch. And Lenny DiNardo said right before, you can't throw the same pitch. And that's where, against that lineup, it's hard if you don't have a changeup. I think that maybe if you could have utilized the changeup to some of those guys, but fastball, curveball for Barnes, um, those guys were just spitting on his curveball, sitting fastball, and they delivered. And give Toronto credit. I mean, that's a really good club. So, I know it's not great, um, but we'll see what they do here. Eric, good to see Eric. Red Sox are what they are, yet another fraudulent New England sports team that cheated their collective asses off with core smashing. records in 2008. Magically, it. Hold on, I'm just this great. So really overachieving. Surely you just Michael Kora's back and blatant disregard for the rules is return. The organization is second and great show. So, yeah, I don't know if they're doing anything this year. We've already acknowledged the sign stealing and all of that. Good to hear from Eric. I miss Eric, so I'm glad to hear from him. And send any comments you want over. The sticky stuff, I will admit, was definitely something that has hurt pitchers. And I honestly didn't think it was going to be as big a deal because I knew that the bullfrog has been part of pitchers, whatever you want to call it, for the last, I think, 25 years, ever since I've been in baseball. Um, yeah, cheaters cheat. Yep. Yeah, they do. But that whatever that stickum crap is, what did I can't the spider tech that definitely around baseball there've been a lot of pitchers that we've seen have been hurt by that. So um the Red Sox are in a very interesting situation, which happens to teams that lose. When they pitch, they don't hit. When they hit, like today, they don't pitch. So the good thing is Chris Sale wrapped up a major league rehab assignment on Saturday with the Woo Sox. That happened in Scranton. Good results. He'll pitch next week. You're going to have Tanner Houck back in that rotation. Obviously, it's Garrett Richards to the pen. So going forward, do you believe in Sale, Evaldi, Rodriguez, Houck, and why am I missing someone else? Because I can't think. Pavetta. That's a pretty good five. Bullpen, don't like that Sawamura got hurt. Don't like that Hernandez is on the shelf. Do you love their bullpen going forward? With some injuries there, I don't. If Sawamura and Hernandez are long term, um, Whitlock, Ottavino, even though Ottavino didn't throw well today, I think the Sawamura injury today hurt because you had to bring Ottavino in. It's still, I think, a good enough bullpen. So, what is it with the Red Sox? People are screaming for first base. That seems to be something people are screaming for. First base, first base. They want Jairo Munoz in the big leagues. Jairo has a 30-game hit streak with Worcester, team that I see every day. Um, sure, but we tend to fall. Remember that a lot of Red Sox fans and diehards fall in love with players in the minor leagues. We wanted Cordero out, and then he came to Worcester and hit close to 400, and then we all wanted him back in the big leagues. So, I think there's a lot of screaming and shouting about that. I don't know. For me, um, I like the team that they were running out there before with Arroyo at second and Hernandez in center. But I know that they want Duran to play, and Duran is shown at flashes that he's a heck of a player. But I kind of liked what they had going there, and we'll see what going forward. I think they have options. So let's just ride this out. I don't think there's full panic yet. I think if you lose 8 of the next 10, I think this, the big game stuff to me it's getting a little bit overdone. Today was a must win. It wasn't a must win. They're trailing in the division. We know that. And maybe that's something that we concede. But, you know, as bad as they've played in this stretch, they still have a wild card spot. They still have a 2.5 game lead over the Yankees. I know it's one on the loss column over the Yankees in Toronto, which I get. But consider all of the work that the Yankees in Toronto have done, and they've done some great work. They are still trailing the Red Sox. So I would say that not every game is a big game. I think series, you got to start winning series. And coming up here, for me, a 3-3 series or, homestand coming up would be not that great. But, I look at it like this. They could go 4-2 or 5-1 in this next homestand, But then if they go to New York and get swept, it makes those games behind you not as important. So I just look at more long term in the rest of the month. You've got the Rays, the Orioles, the Yankees, the Rangers, the Twins, the Indians, and then the Rays again. So you got some teams in there that aren't great, but you got to start winning series. You know, even if you don't win the series against the Rays, but you're able to sweep Baltimore, take 2 of 3. But for me, you want to go 4-2 on homestands, split on the road. Uh, I listen. I've seen things turn around, and you're going to have a lot of the teams playing each other now coming down the stretch. So that's what's going to make it even interesting. Yeah, Dave. Appreciate David Clark. Marwin Gonzalez needs to be released. I understand that. My dad was on that today too. Here's what I do like about Marwin Gonzalez, which I've been able to see because when you're a broadcaster, you tend to watch games a little bit differently. And um, one thing about him that is exceptional, and I know we don't love this part of baseball, is defense. He can play almost any position, tough positions at a high level. He can play once every 2 weeks at shortstop and play it at a high level. He can do the same at second. He can do the same at first. He can really do that everywhere. But does it come to a point where that doesn't pull its weight anymore if you don't hit because the hitting has been bad for a while. So that's a decision you have to make. In Danny Santana, I think they brought in kind of a clone. I don't think it's good defensively. Can play pretty much everywhere, but wasn't hitting. So what do you do with that spot? Because I know that these aren't sexy spots, David, but you do need someone to play shortstop, third base, second base in a pinch. And I get Dahlbeck can play there and all that, but you can't just put anyone as short. Kiki can play there, but he hasn't played a lot there. Um, do you keep our ooze instead? Because he can play third, second, short. Or, and I'll throw this out at you, because shortstop is an important position. You're saying, well, what's the big deal? They have Xander. They do. But if you're a good team and you think you're going to be in the playoffs, you can't roll with teams where you don't have a ton of backups. So Munoz was playing shortstop the last 2 or 3 days for Worcester and Scranton. They exclusively played him at short. So maybe Gyro is the Marwin spot because he can play everywhere. He can play every infield position. And I mean, he really could play 7 positions. He's not great defensively in the corner outfielders, but he brings a lot of energy. So that might be a hand forced. I think one good thing about Heim Bloom, and I do want to speak about that. I know that people are kind of down on him, but you know, I'm a big believer in perspective and sitting back, sometimes taking a step back here. You realize that after, this team was stripped of any depth, and when you don't have a lot of depth, you can win. They did in 18, but they couldn't have one little hole that unplugged, the dam would break. Now, I mean, look what Heim has done. And I sometimes I take it personally. I shouldn't, but there's been a lot of criticism lately. But I mean, you got to step back and look at how many players he brought in that are playing for you and are making a difference. And there's been some that have missed. We know that happens to everybody. But I mean, we don't talk about how great of a pick Hunter Renfro is. He's playing every day at a high level. Kike Hernandez. I mean, those two guys, I mean, those are really good. In Verdugo, who they traded for. You rebuilt your outfield. Where 3 years ago you had one of the best outfields ever, and then 3 years later you were able to get through that debacle of that. He was able to get through that. Plawecki's been a good pickup. Whitlock, Sawamura, Pavetta. I know we don't love Garrett Richards right now, but he started the year okay. Adam Ottavino. I mean, they made a lot of good moves here. I think the good moves and it shows because they've won quicker than I think they thought. And when I look ahead, guys, they are really building that kind of Tampa Bay team because they're going to have some young kids and not, it almost is lining up, if just say if this was if Casas was ready this year and he was your first baseman, he's the next one that's going to be and when he's ready to play, that is going to solve a lot. So I do like a lot of them, even Ara Uz. I mean, a Rule 5 guy that barely played a lot of Double A. Christian Arroyo. Now that they've brought in a lot of guys. And yes, some again, I'm getting messages. Some I know that their guys have not done well, but there's guys in the minor leagues that they signed as free agents. They just signed Delano DeShields, but this kid Yoan Mieses or Jairo Munoz, Connor Siebold. These are all guys they brought in by Heim Bloom. Caleb Ward, Jose Adames at the Worcester the team I'm covering. We're seeing a lot of good guys, and so this is going to get better too. Maybe this is not the year, but they're going to be this kind of organization under Heim. I think this is what you're going to see, winning baseball. Martinez. Someone's asking about Martinez. So he didn't play today, I believe. No, he did play today. So he only missed one game today. He was 4 for 5. How about that? Two doubles, three RBIs. Uh, Plawecki had another 3-hit game, but I think the Sawamura injury was tough, and of course the walks today hurt the Red Sox late. That's a good Toronto club. I look at when you compare organizations. I mean, there's a lot of position players you'd probably take over the Red Sox. That Toronto team's 10 games over 500. They've played a lot better lately, but I mean Springer, who's been hurt, Guerrero, Simeon, Hernandez, Gurriel, Bichette. I mean that lineup is really good. And now you add some pitching to it. I love their closer, Romano. That's a really good team, and it's surprising Toronto hasn't, if you think about it, 10 games over 500 for that. Obviously you need pitching, but they've had some. Um, and their bullpen has just been a little, I think that's been the difference if you look at the Red Sox and Blue Jays, why maybe the Red Sox are 5 games better. I think they've had a better bullpen, uh, overall, more consistent. So I hope some fans have been able to get out to Worcester, where I work and broadcast their games. I do radio and TV. I do the TV 2 nights, Thursdays and Fridays. We're on Nesson Plus mainly, and if there's no conflict, um, we'll be on regular Nesson, the mothership as they call it. So I really enjoy that. Hope to see some people at those games. This is the background of where I live in Grafton here. All right, if we have no more questions or comments, we'll wrap this up. This live broadcast. Thanks for joining, and we will do this more soon. Maybe make this a Sunday.